Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. We have reached the month of April, which is National Poetry Month, and of course I wanted to put together a little list of what I think are some really phenomenal films all about poetry and poets. So in this little compilation list, I've got pretty strict chronicles of poets' lives. I have a rather rom-com style take on a really famous American poet. I have an animated short feature that actually won the Academy Award that both explores a little bit of a really famous Norwegian poet's life, but also sort of winds its way around poetic concepts. I mean, these titles are really interesting, and I hope that at least one of them speaks to you. If not, though, you can always check out our 3 video services, CleaveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, or Canopy, where you can find thousands upon thousands of other films that I know you will find something within that speaks to you. As always, these video recommendations are available to you entirely free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card, and with no further ado, I want to go ahead and jump right into the recs. Okay, we are kicking things off with a recommendation from Hoopla Digital, and that is for 2011's biopic Black Butterflies. Now, Black Butterflies is an incredible film all about the South African poet Ingrid Jonker. Now, Ingrid Jonker was sort of she became kind of a poster child for anti-apartheid poetry. She was passionate, she was intelligent, she was driven, and she was also deeply troubled at the same time. This movie really focuses on her relationships between a couple of her closest confidants, as well as her father, romantic relationships, all of these different interpersonal dealings, and I think it tries in a really beautiful way to chronicle how she gets to her end point. Now, this film is incredibly well acted. You've got Carice Van Houten in the lead role as Ingrid Jonker. You have Liam Cunningham playing her primary love interest. You've got Rutger Hauer playing her father. I mean, you've got a really solid cast list, all of whom are powerhouses in their own right, but then you put them together and it's kind of crazy how well things go. There are a couple of scenes where they're all interacting where it's just absolutely like a masterclass in performance. And that's just the acting aspect. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. It really is beautifully filmed. The story is, of course, riveting and emotional and evocative because Ingrid Jonker's life was all of those things. At the end of the day, if you are someone who likes really beautiful acting, if you like family drama, if you like romantic drama, if you just like drama in general, but you also like stories about complex women that are incredibly multifaceted and don't necessarily shy away from darker parts of a psyche, this is absolutely something you should check out. I'm so glad I'd watched this. I wasn't super familiar with Jonker's work until after I watched this, and then I went back and looked up a couple of books of her poetry, and it really is incredible. So if nothing else, I hope if you watch this, it drives you to check out some of Jonker's poems, because they really are incredible. So again, Black Butterflies, available on Hoopla Digital, definite must watch. Okay, my next recommendation jumps to Canopy and is for the 2016 film Neruda. Now, Neruda is a film all about Pablo Neruda's journey from Chile to Paris after communism is outlawed in his homeland, and it is an absolute treat. I was not expecting this kind of film when I originally read the description. There are some phenomenally funny moments. Even if you just watch the trailer, you'll be able to kind of pick up the tone for the film. Really excellently acted, but there are really moments of both humor and a bit of absurdism that I was totally not expecting. It kind of reminds me a bit of a Wes Anderson film in parts, those sort of ludicrous bits that are played as if they're realistic. It has this strong thread of realism with a layer of absurdism on top of it, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I absolutely loved this. It is a Spanish language film, so yes, there are absolutely subtitles, but as I always say, it's so worth it. You've got phenomenal performances in here with Pablo Neruda being played by Luis Gnecco. You've got his wife Delia being played by Mercedes Moran. You have Gael Garcia Bernal playing Oscar Peluchino, and this character is such an odd, quirky inspector. Kind of, there's a little bit of Inspector Clouseau sort of thrown in there. He is where you get a lot of laughs, but you also get a lot of rather deep, like light tragedy. That's a weird way to put it, but when you watch the film, you will absolutely understand what I'm saying. And it's one of those characters that is so ridiculous that you absolutely feel for him. He's the hero in this movie in his mind, and that's the whole, like, that's part of the whole concept of this film. Like, who is a hero? What characters are secondary? And the one of the most tragic elements of this story is that Oscar is, in his mind, the absolute hero. He is the first character that you should know and love and want to root for. And of course, you've got this conflict between him and Neruda, who is trying to escape to Paris, and this game of cat and mouse. And he's just not always up for the challenge, and he's sort of sad but hilarious. It's just an excellent film that plays with so many different moods and themes. Like I mentioned, incredibly well acted. The writing is really solid. I loved the plot. I thought that all the little bumps in the road made so much sense and made everything more and more interesting. Like, every scene you wanted more from each of the characters, even secondary characters, I found really interesting in this. Not to mention sort of the concept of person versus persona that's definitely going on with the Neruda character as well as Oscar's character. Like, how you perceive yourself, how you present yourself to the world, this sort of legacy concept. It's just such a fascinating movie to watch. I was 100% not expecting what I got from it, and I'm so happy I watched it. So if you get the chance, make sure that you check out Neruda. If you're interested in sort of that, I hate the word quirky in this situation, but if you like that Wes Anderson style film vibe, this is an absolute must watch. So again, Neruda, available on Canopy. Please check it out. It's probably my pick of the week. Okay, if you are looking for something a little bit different, make sure you check out my next recommendation, which is available on Canopy, and that is the 2006 Oscar award-winning animated short, The Danish Poet. I love this thing. It's 15 minutes, an incredibly fast watch. You absolutely have to watch it. Just do it. Just do it. Right now, if you have 15 minutes. Seriously, put this on pause, hop to Canopy. I absolutely adore this. I actually like this so much that I put it in a short film fest that I did at the library a couple of years ago. And everybody also really responded really well to it because it's just a charming, unexpected kind of film. So The Danish Poet features some really beautiful but thoroughly simplistic art. You've got all of these muted sort of autumnal tones. I want to say they're autumnal because that's really what pops out in my head all the time when I think about this. And in The Danish Poet, we're following Casper Jorgensen, a Danish poet from the 1940s who is traveling to find his inspiration. He's actually traveling to meet a Nobel Prize winning author, and he ends up meeting a woman, and that experience changes his entire life. Uh, all within 15 minutes, the story packs in romance, comedy, drama, a little bit of tragedy. But at the end of the day, you do get a happy ending. I don't think that's a spoiler, really, because for something that's 15 minutes, I don't feel like spoilers count. But it does really delve into this concept of the cycle of life and how everyone's lives are connected, and the way you feel like it's going to unfold, it doesn't, and the different connecting and important factors are not revealed until unexpected moments. And I just really, really enjoyed this short. I mean, like I said, it's only 15 minutes long, but even thinking about it now, it really makes me smile. I enjoyed myself so thoroughly within that quarter hour that I can't even put into words how much I liked this film. So if you are looking for something a little bit different, if you like a slightly simplistic art style, if you like cyclical storytelling, if you just like a really, really good tale, make sure you check out The Danish Poet. It's available again on Canopy. You will not regret it. Okay, for my very last recommendation of this week, we're going back again to Canopy for 2019's Wild Nights with Emily. I adore this movie. This is one of those films that just came out of nowhere for me, and I'm so happy I actually watched it. Wild Nights with Emily tells a slightly alternate version of Emily Dickinson's life. If you are a fan of the poet, you're probably at least a little bit familiar with her life, and maybe you're familiar with some of her other biopics and biographies. They're usually pretty dramatic, pretty intense, pretty much leaning into the whole short life, like so much brilliance, sadness, angst, all of this. And Wild Nights with Emily just absolutely upends all of that. I 100% would describe this as a romantic comedy. It is thoroughly amusing in so many parts. There's also like a really beautiful love story within it, that leans into some more recent scientific discoveries about her life and some of her writings and some of her personal letters and whatnot. And I just really, really loved this movie. Emily Dickinson is played by Molly Shannon of SNL fame. So right away, you're definitely not looking at your standard sort of dry or really heavy retelling of her life. That said, Molly Shannon does a phenomenal, phenomenal job as Emily Dickinson. Yes, it definitely leans towards a more comedic take, but we're not talking about like ridiculous, over the top, absolutely ludicrous, pratfalling, SNL sketch style Emily Dickinson. We're talking a heroine who is multifaceted, who leans into her own humor, but also just believably exists in the world that the writer has created. And I just wasn't expecting that. I really was expecting like to see a Molly Shannon SNL character on screen instead of this poet that I've been a big fan of for my whole life. Like, and I think maybe because it was so unexpected is part of the reason why I responded so well to it. But I just really, really loved this film. I thought it was interesting and a totally different take and a totally different tone than what I'm used to. You've got some really, really phenomenal performances, a lot of really familiar character actor faces going on in here, and it definitely plays up a more contemporary view of her life. You also get a lot of really funny little bit scenes where she's bumping up against people who are telling her what her life is supposed to be, and her sort of deadpan response is laugh out loud funny. So many moments. I just, I can't tell you how many times I laughed out loud in this, and was just totally thrown by that. I'd take a second and be like, wow, that's not what I expected at all. That's not how I expected that scene to go. That's not how I expected that interaction with that person to run. Simply, again, because I'm so familiar with other tellings of her life. You know, other chronicles have been much more like, oh, the sadness, the angst, the pain, and this does not do that. This does not do that. So yeah, if you are a fan of Emily Dickinson, if you are interested in seeing an alternate take on her life, if you have read about more recent discoveries about her writings and her personal letters and things like that, and you want to see it depicted on screen, check this out. Wild Nights with Emily, incredibly enjoyable, out of left field, and an absolute joy to watch. All right, so those are my recommendations for this week. If you have any films that you think we missed, that you absolutely want to recommend to other people that are about poets, poetry, or anything like that, please, please, please comment with those below. I am always looking for other recommendations, and you know how much I love watching different films. If you have any recommendations for future themes that you would like to see us explore, definitely comment with those too. I 100% I'm always looking forward to seeing those. As always, thank you so much for joining me this week. I love putting these kinds of lists together. I love being able to sort of do a dive into our video catalog and seeing all of the awesome titles that we do have available. And of course, there are so many more out there that are available, again, entirely for free with your Milan-Berlin library card. You absolutely have to check out our video services, CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, or Canopy, so that you can find some more recommendations of your very own. So with that, I am going to sign off on this episode. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye!